Raila Odinga was born on the 7th of January 1945 in Maseno, Kisumu district, in what was then Kenya's Nyanza province. He was the son of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and Mary Ajuma Odinga. His father, Jaramogi, was a prominent political leader and a key figure in Kenya's struggle for independence. He later became the country's first vice president under President Jomo Kenyatta. His mother, Mary Ajuma, was known for her warmth, discipline, and dedication to her children's education. Growing up in such a politically active and intellectually vibrant household exposed Raila to the importance of education, justice, and national service from an early age. The Odinga family placed a strong emphasis on learning. Both parents believed education was the most effective path toward empowerment and self-reliance. Raila grew up in an environment that encouraged questioning, learning, and public debate. His father's involvement in national politics introduced him to leadership and the importance of civic responsibility, while his mother's nurturing nature instilled in him humility and perseverance. These parental influences would become the foundation of his character and future career. Raila Odinga began his formal education at Kisumu Union Primary School, where he was known as a bright and disciplined pupil. He later attended Miranda Primary School, which was one of the leading mission schools in the region. His early education coincided with a period when Kenya was still under colonial rule, and access to quality education for African children was limited. Despite these challenges, Raila performed well academically and earned admission to Miranda High School, a respected institution in Saya County. At Miranda High School, Raila developed an interest in science and mathematics subjects that would later influence his career choice. Teachers and peers recall him as a curious and hardworking student, passionate about solving problems and understanding how things worked. His commitment to learning earned him respect and admiration, setting him apart as a promising scholar from an early age. He completed his secondary education in 1962, just as Kenya was gaining independence. In 1962, Raila received an opportunity that would change the course of his life, a scholarship to study in East Germany, which at the time was part of the Eastern Bloc under socialist governance. He began his studies at the Herder Institute in Leipzig, where he took preparatory courses in the German language and culture. This was a critical step for foreign students before beginning technical studies in Germany. After completing his language studies, Raila proceeded to the Technical College of Magdeburg, Technische Hochschule Magdeburg, where he pursued a degree in mechanical and production engineering. His years in Germany exposed him to new ideas, including industrial efficiency, scientific precision, and social equality concepts that would later influence his political ideology. The exposure to socialism and a disciplined educational environment shaped his worldview and his appreciation for organization and collective responsibility. Raila graduated in 1970 with a qualification equivalent to a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering. During his time in Germany, he also participated in student leadership activities and maintained close ties with other African students studying abroad. This international experience not only broadened his academic knowledge, but also strengthened his political awareness. Raila returned to Kenya that same year, ready to apply his skills to nation building. Upon returning to Kenya in 1970, Raila joined the University of Nairobi as a lecturer in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. He served in this capacity until around 1974, during which he trained many young engineers and contributed to developing Kenya's technical education system. His commitment to education and mentorship demonstrated his belief that knowledge should be used to empower others. After leaving the university, Raila took up a position at the Kenya Bureau of Standards, KEBs, where he worked as the Group Standards Manager and later became the Deputy Director. His technical training and managerial skills helped improve industrial standards and production quality across Kenya. These early professional experiences were crucial in shaping his administrative and leadership abilities, which would later prove useful in his political career. Raila has also pursued various professional courses throughout his life, particularly in areas of management, standardization, and industrial development. His dedication to continuous learning underscores his belief that education is a lifelong journey, a principle he has often emphasized in public speeches. Raila Odinga married Ida Odinga in 1973. Ida Odinga is a well-educated and accomplished woman who worked as a teacher and later became a businesswoman and philanthropist. Their marriage has been described as a partnership built on mutual respect and shared values. Together, they have 4 children: Fidel Castro Odinga, deceased, Rosemary Odinga, Raila Odinga Jr., and Winnie Odinga. The Odinga family has faced triumphs and tragedies together. The death of their eldest son, Fidel Odinga, in 2015 was a particularly painful moment that tested their faith and resilience. Despite such hardships, Raila and Ida have remained pillars of strength for their family, offering support and guidance to their children. Their home is often described as one that values education, discipline, and social responsibility. Each of Raila's children has pursued different paths but continues to embody the family's legacy of leadership and public service. Rosemary Odinga is involved in social entrepreneurship and education advocacy. Raila Jr. is a businessman and youth activist. And Winnie Odinga has taken an active role in her father's political affairs, serving as his aide and political strategist. Through them, the Odinga legacy continues to influence Kenyan society. Raila Odinga's educational background has had a profound impact on his approach to politics, governance, and family life. His engineering training instilled in him a logical, analytical mindset, while his exposure to different political ideologies in Germany broadened his understanding of governance and social justice. These experiences shaped his belief in equitable development, industrialization, and democracy. At home, Raila's commitment to education is evident in the way he and Ida raise their children. The emphasis on learning, integrity, and community mirrors the values he inherited from his parents. Raila often attributes his resilience and discipline to the lessons learned from both his educational journey and family upbringing. For him, education is not just about acquiring knowledge, it is about nurturing critical thinking, moral responsibility, and national pride. Odinga's formal political journey appears to begin in earnest in the 1980s under a repressive one-party regime. In 1982, he was accused of involvement in a coup attempt against then-President Daniel Arap Moi and was detained without trial for 6 years, 1982 to 1988. After his release, he continued his activism for multi-party democracy and, in 1991, went into exile in Norway before returning to Kenya in 1992. With the restoration of multi-party politics, Odinga returned and contested the 1992 elections. He was elected to the National Assembly in 1992 under the banner of Forum for the PFL Restoration of Democracy Kenya, Ford Kenya, led by his father Jaramogi. In 1997, riding now under the National Development Party, NDP, he stood unsuccessfully for the presidency while retaining his parliamentary seat. In 2001, the NDP merged into the ruling Kenya African National Union (KANU) party. Odinga was appointed Energy Minister in 2001 to 2002 as part of that ruling apparatus. In 2002, Odinga became central to the formation of a large coalition, the National Rainbow Coalition (NARC), which brought together the Liberal Democratic Party (LDP), of which Odinga was a founder, and other parties. With NARC, incumbent President Moi ended KANU's four-decade rule when Moi Kibaki was elected in December 2002. Odinga's role in that transition was pivotal. After the post-2002 coalition, Odinga served as Minister for Roads, Public Works and Housing between 2003 and 2005. This allowed him to leave a tangible imprint on Kenya's infrastructure, for example, the Thika Superhighway project, and cement his technocratic credentials. In 2005, Odinga led the Orange campaign during the constitutional referendum, an opposition movement against proposed changes by the Kibaki presidency. That campaign birthed the Orange Democratic Movement, ODM, as a formal political party. In the presidential election of December 2007, Odinga was the ODM candidate and claimed victory. However, the election result, which placed Kibaki as winner, was heavily disputed and triggered post-election violence of over 1,000 deaths. In February 2008, after intense mediation, Odinga was sworn in as Prime Minister of Kenya, under a power-sharing agreement called the Grand Coalition Government, with Kibaki remaining president. He held that position from 2008 to 2013. During his tenure as Prime Minister, the 2010 Constitution of Kenya was promulgated, which among other reforms strengthened devolution and institutionalized checks and balances. His leadership in this period also reflected his magnanimous nature. He chose to enter the government of his erstwhile rival for the sake of national stability, demonstrating willingness to put country above narrow partisanship. Following his term as Prime Minister, Odinga remained a dominant figure in the Kenyan opposition. He stood for president again in 2013, 2017, and 2022 without success. Throughout these campaigns, his persistence underscored a conviction that the system must be reformed and the voice of the ordinary Kenyan heard. His repeated returns to contest, even after defeat, represented a kind of resilience and magnanimity. He never withdrew entirely from public life and kept offering an alternative path. While Odinga was at times criticized for shifting alliances, there is also a strong narrative of his magnanimous nature. For instance, despite repeated failure in presidential bids, he continued to call for peaceful protest, engage in talks, and at one time in 2018 reached the famous handshake agreement with President Uhuru Kenyatta, which symbolized reconciliation and national unity. He embraced roles beyond narrow ethnic or party bases, reaching out across Kenya's divides, which earned him affectionate labels such as Baba, Father. His readiness to work with rivals when national interest was at stake speaks of a leader willing to elevate the country above his self-interest. Beyond Kenyan politics, Odinga served from 2018 onwards as the African Union's High Representative for Infrastructure Development. This continental role underscored his broader vision: Africa's interconnectedness, development of infrastructure, and elevation of real material change. It also reflects his engineering background and hints at how he linked policy and practicality. Raila Odinga died of a heart attack on the 10th of October 2025 while receiving medical treatment in Kerala, India. His death triggered 7 days of national mourning in Kenya, with flags at half-mast and a state funeral declared. The outpouring of grief and respect across political divides testified to the breadth of his impact. Not merely an opposition leader, but a national figure whose lifelong struggle and commitment earned him a place in Kenya's collective memory. Throughout this path, two themes stand out: his commitment to reform and democracy, for example the 2010 Constitution, multi-party politics, and his ability to rise above bitterness and embrace reconciliation when necessary. His magnanimity was demonstrated in his willingness to join coalitions, to shake hands with rivals, and to maintain a presence in public life even after defeats. In his death, Kenya lost a historic figure, one whose journey mirrored the country's own grappling with power, ethnicity, democracy, and development. Raila Odinga may never have become president, yet he arguably shaped the presidency, the constitution, and the shape of Kenyan politics itself. His legacy is one of striving, resilience, and ultimately reconciliation.